Hello everyone, welcome to back my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Sheldon isn't in the Georgie and Mandy's first marriage premiere, and unfortunately, while it's hilarious, its best young Sheldon pilot Easter egg just further highlighted his absence. Picking up a couple of months after George's death, the new show will shift its focus on George and Mary's eldest as he builds a life with his Mandy and Cease. While it's essentially a follow-up on young Sheldon, the Coopers won't have the same prominence in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. That said, to establish the connection between it and its predecessor, CBS brings back Georgie's family, except Sheldon. Unlike many of its peers, young Sheldon's cancellation wasn't because of the lack of interest from the public. Instead, it's because of the established The Big Bang Theory timeline, predetermining when the show would end. With that, the young Sheldon finale capped off with Sheldon moving to Pasadena, California, to begin his postgraduate studies. This is why it's trickier to feature him in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage than his other family members. That said, the sequel's pilot inadvertently makes his absence more glaring with its hilarious young Sheldon reference. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage episode 1, The 610 to Lubbock, opens with Georgie, Mandy, and baby Cease still living with the McAllisters. After Meemaw's house was destroyed in the young Sheldon season 6 finale and the Cooper's house became too cramped, the trio moved to Mandy's parents, which resulted in brand new issues, particularly with how Audrey treats Georgie. Fed up, the new family moved out to a mobile home beside a train station, which means that the whole structure would shake whenever trains passed by. Aside from being the most hilarious bit in the Georgie and Mandy's first marriage pilot, it also brilliantly references the young Sheldon premiere, which opened with a scene with trains. Just before the rest of the Coopers were introduced in their first meal in the prequel, Sheldon was busy playing with his train model in the garage. Young Sheldon wasn't able to feature the toys as prominently in its latter seasons because of everything else happening in the show, however. As established in The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon never lost his love for trains. During some of his most emotionally challenging moments, he would revert to playing them in his room. While they were never fully displayed in either of the apartments that he lived in, the models were always close by. Considering this, it's safe to say that if Sheldon could visit Georgie and Mandy's mobile home, learning that it is beside a train track would definitely have thrilled him. Unfortunately, because he isn't in the Georgie and Mandy's first marriage's premiere, everyone is just grossed out over it. What makes this worse is that no one even brings up the idea that Sheldon would have loved the home despite its desolate state because of its proximity to trains. Granted that everyone is more focused on Georgie and Mandy's new living situation and delivering the comedic bit when the house shakes when a train passes by, but it's a wasted opportunity to reference the boy genius. While the Georgie and Mandy's first marriage premiere does acknowledge Sheldon, it's mostly to highlight his oddness as compared to Mandy's brother Connor. As previously mentioned, featuring Sheldon in the latest The Big Bang Theory franchise installment will take a little more work, considering his circumstances. He could only really visit his brother and his new family during school breaks, or if there's an urgent matter that pulls him back to Texas. However, that may take a while to happen since Georgie and Mandy's first marriage's Thanksgiving episode doesn't include him. The great news is that the producers have shared that they are actively finding ways to feature the boy genius. At some point, Sheldon will have to come home, especially since he doesn't have Leonard and the rest of the Pasadena gang yet in California, per the established The Big Bang Theory timeline. Ian Armitage, on the other hand, has expressed his desire to reprise the role, even in a cameo capacity in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. So it shouldn't be difficult to recruit him back, assuming that his schedule lines up with the show's filming. Georgie and Mandy's first marriage just revealed its Sheldon problem, and it's not what you'd think. In young Sheldon, Georgie Cooper and Mandy McAllister's relationship has been anything but conventional. What started as a teenage pregnancy evolved into an unlikely but endearing love story, culminating in marriage. However, their first attempt at wedded bliss has uncovered an issue that might just rock their future together, and it has everything to do with Sheldon, but not in the way most fans would expect. For much of young Sheldon and the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon Cooper has been the gravitational force around which the Cooper family orbits. His brilliance, quirks, and often difficult personality have shaped the lives of his parents, siblings, and even their significant others. But Georgie and Mandy's marriage isn't suffering because of Sheldon's attitude or interference. It's revealing a deeper issue about how the Cooper family dynamic has always revolved around him. And for Georgie, that realization is proving more difficult than expected. For years, fans of The Big Bang Theory have known that Georgie has long harbored resentment toward his younger brother. That much was confirmed when Sheldon, as an adult, admitted that Georgie had sacrificed his own dreams to support their family after their father's death. But young Sheldon is showing us those struggles in real time, and Georgie's marriage to Mandy is adding an unexpected layer to that tension. In their first months as husband and wife, Georgie and Mandy are discovering that their biggest challenge isn't adjusting to marriage, parenthood, or financial struggles. It's Georgie learning how to be a priority in his own life for the first time. From the moment he was old enough to work, Georgie put family first. He took jobs, dropped out of school, and assumed responsibilities far beyond his years, all because his parents were preoccupied. Whether that was George Sr. managing Sheldon's needs or Mary focusing on church and her youngest son's academic future. Now Georgie is entering a phase of life where he's supposed to be the head of his own family, but he's never been allowed to before. That's where Sheldon's presence lingers, not as an active obstacle, but as an ingrained dynamic that Georgie is struggling to break free from. Mandy, ever the sharp-witted realist, is starting to see something Georgie has yet to admit. He has spent so long taking care of others that he doesn't know how to take care of himself. And in marriage, that's a problem. While Georgie works hard to provide for Mandy and their daughter Cease, he often neglects his own wants and needs. He's spent years being the problem solver, the fixer, the one who picks up the slack. But in a marriage, partnership is key, and Mandy is starting to realize that Georgie isn't used to someone supporting him, because no one ever really has. This becomes evident in the small ways their marriage starts to crack. Mandy encourages Georgie to take time for himself, but he brushes it off. She tries to share responsibilities, but he insists on handling things alone. When she suggests that he let himself dream a little, maybe about expanding his business, taking a trip, or even just having a hobby, he doesn't know how to respond. Mandy loves Georgie, but she can't be the only one invested in his happiness. And for Georgie, that's a foreign concept. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of young Sheldon is that fans already know where the Cooper family is headed. George Sr.'s death looms over the series, and when it happens, Georgie will step up even more, just as he did in the Big Bang Theory timeline. That means whatever personal growth he's working toward now might be short-lived, because duty will once again call. The tragedy isn't just that Georgie has to sacrifice for his family. It's that he's been conditioned to believe that's his only role. And that's where the true Sheldon problem lies, not in Sheldon himself, but in how the entire Cooper family has been structured around him. Mandy's influence might be the only thing that can help Georgie break free. Unlike the rest of the Cooper family, Mandy wasn't raised in the orbit of Sheldon's needs. She doesn't view Georgie as a secondary character in someone else's story. She sees him as a person deserving of his own dreams. If Georgie and Mandy's marriage is going to survive, he'll have to start believing that too. But with so much emotional baggage and a lifetime of expectations weighing on him, the road ahead won't be easy. The real Sheldon problem isn't Sheldon at all. It's the legacy he unknowingly left behind. And for Georgie, it's time to decide whether he'll keep living in that shadow or finally step into the light.